All right, so in this video, I'm going to be breaking down how I increased this food and bev brand's revenue by 32% in 35 days and everything I did to get it there, right? Nothing held back. So, before I get into the case study here and how I was able to do the above, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to watch this video through and see if this was even worth taking a look at. Obviously, you can't buy back the seconds you spent even landing on this video with $1 billion. And for that, I'm super grateful and thank you. So, I originally rewrote this case study for my audience. Um, Essentially, I wanted to deliver more value. I didn't really like the previous version that I had. So, I rewrote this version with, again, nothing held back and all of the best stuff I learned over the past year or so of being in the space. But before I get into the case study, I'd like to briefly introduce myself, or if you just want to get to the case study itself, you can skip over to the time frame that it begins on. So my name is Tamim Noor. I'm the CEO and founder of T-Ladder, which is a startup marketing agency. I wanted to briefly share my journey to where I am today, beyond just this business case study and what I'm truly in this for, right? So let's go all the way back in the beginning, way before I was born. My parents, who were originally from Bangladesh, who left in 1992 to settle in Montreal, Canada, which is where I was actually born. Um, they left everything behind and they sacrificed for decades to put me and my family in a position to thrive and prosper. And because of their sacrifice and vision, right, it's only right that I honor them with the opportunities I've been blessed with and making a lasting impact, which is the heart and soul of my company, T-Letter, where we look to not only drive growth for businesses like yours, but also giving back to the world has given me so much. Okay, so let's get into the case study now. First of all, how did I even get the opportunity to work with this food and bev brand? Um, as a startup agency, typically you start off from scratch, from zero, and what have you. So by nature, this happened to be one of the first few clients that I ever worked with. So I had to rely on good old cold outreach to get him to on board with T-Letter. So here's how it went from a straight up cold call to onboarding, right? I used a dollar, I had a list, I had a dream. I uh, I gave him a call. Him and I talked about it. I followed him up afterwards to an email, and we did an audit of his Klaviyo account. I sent the audit report and proposal. Went back and forth for a week, few weeks or so. What happened was his previous email agency just so happened to leave him uh, a while back. I should go ahead and fix that. But he had no one to do the emails, and he didn't want to do it himself because he had no time, which is a common occurrence across many other different bands that I spoke with. Um, but with that phone call, I just so happened to be the right person at the right time, and eventually, after a few weeks or so, I was onboarded. Now, here's the best way I can summarize what was in that audit report to different sections, right? So the first pillar of the foundations of great email marketing is obviously deliverability, right? You want to make sure that your emails are landing in the primary inbox and you're getting those optimal open rates of about, to me, uh, at the very least 50%. Um, Typically, I like to lie around 60%, and anything below that, there's significant room for improvement, right? So in this case, and using mxtoolbox.com to take a peek at his current domain health and setup, I was able to find that there was no domain authentication record set up, no dedicated sending domain set up, and the actual sender email address that they were using to send out email campaigns was different from their main domain, right? And the reason why you don't want to do that is when you want to keep the sender email address uh, consistent with their main domain, right? They were using a different domain, and that's also a factor in causing deliverability issues when it comes to sending out email campaigns to your subscribers. Okay, and the other thing is that he didn't really rotate the list into um, VIPs, engaged customers, and then furthermore into 30-day engaged, 60-day engaged, and 90-day engaged, and also into existing customers, buyers, etc., for personalized and relevant email campaigns, right? The other thing too was there was some things to adjust with his welcome series, abandonment flows, post purchase flow, and what have you. I'm not gonna go too into it, but basically, um, there was a lot of frameworks to work around and things to fix in terms of the amount of images used, the amount of links used. Again, you want to make sure your deliverability is on point, right? Okay, and the other flows to be added was the VIP flow, sunset flow, winback flow, etc., as well as implementing SMS flows and campaigns into the mix. And then the thing was, they were also sending out zero campaigns, obviously because their previous solution um, had dropped them off, and they were sending out zero campaigns. So, along with that auto report came a proposed campaign calendar and a list of campaign ideas. Um, Bear in mind, every store has a different situation. But in my experience and in the experience of my peers and mentors ahead of me, what I've listed above tends to be a common thing amongst many different brands, especially with the deliverability thing. So now it's June 13th, right? They pay the invoice. I'm on their Klaviyo account, their Shopify account. They filled out a questionnaire, and I have the brand assets. So now what? So this was the before state when I just got onboarded onto their account. And here we go to the deliverability part, right? What exactly did I do to make sure that their emails were able to get consistent open rates of above 50 to 60%, right? So again, before anything else, you got to make sure that your email deliverability is on point, right? So the first thing I did is I helped them set up their dedicated sending domain. There's a link to an SOP. I believe Klaviyo has it. You could just follow that step by step, and you should be able to get your dedicated sending domain set up. I also helped them set up their DMARC record. And before we started blasting out email campaigns to their entire list, we wanted to get as many subscribers who haven't engaged with them in the past 180 days back on to the engaged list, right? So the first order of business, right, was to send a plain text email welcoming back all subscribers with open arms. And you want to come back with energy, right? And in that email, we offered a discount to win them back, so to speak. And at the bottom of the email, we even got them to engage with the email and get the following data, right? So we basically asked them, if they would prefer protein bars or little bite-sized pieces, or they weren't sure. And this is the data that we got. But not only did we get the good feedback that the brand was looking for, by getting them back to reply to the email, I would say is one of the best ways to get your domain reputation in strong shape, right? Let me just fix that real quick. But combined with all the other deliverability practices and foundations we set, we got over 10,000 subscribers to re-engage with the list with a good old plain text email. And it's important to start off with a plain text email, since an email of that form has the highest chance of landing in your subscribers' primary inbox, right? Like, so again, optimizing for deliverability, as opposed to a heavy email, right, with several images and links that might send that email, an email that has a lot of time and effort put into it, land in the dreaded spam folder, right? So again, optimizing for deliverability is probably the highest leverage thing you can do to quickly get your attributed revenues to email to, at the very least, 30% of your total revenue. Okay, and once we turn the unengaged to the engaged, we can then slowly ramp up our campaign volume through the 14-day engaged first, the 30-day engaged, the 60-day engaged, the 90-day engaged, until 180 days, where each segment would be upgraded once the campaigns reached an average of 60% open rate on them. And the other thing we did was consistently sending out campaigns and sticking to a campaign calendar that stays on top of mind of their high intent audience, right? People that raise their hand to be on their list via their sign up form or through a place order, and people that we didn't have to spend an arm and a leg for them to pay attention to us, right? And what I'm talking about here is paid media, of course. Once we did that, we were able to send out 2 to 3 campaigns a week. And the key thing we did here is, which I believe tremendously helped us reach the goals we set in the first 35 days of working together, was sending out emails that delivered value and built relationships rather than spamming flash sale, flash sale, flash sales every 2 days, right? I have a burner email account of my own where I collect and analyze other brands' email accounts. And I sometimes go to my promo tab, and it's surprising to tell you that this is all I ever see, right? It's just more of the same. These marketing type of emails, they land in the promotion tab, right? And of course, when your emails land in the promo tab, there's less of a chance of your customer of them actually opening them, let alone seeing them. And of course, these will lead to decreased open rates and what have you. Don't get me wrong, it's cool to drop a promotional email every once in a while. I would say even every weekend if you wanted to. But if I was a customer, the, the only way I ever click on an email if it's a brand I recognize or I'm also vibe with, right? And I don't know about you, but I'd open an email sent by Elon from SpaceX over some random brand called, I don't know, ABC brand, let's just say. And why is that? Because there's a brand there. Elon is the brand. We all know who he is and what he stands for. Here's another example. I've been wearing Jordans for as long as I can remember, probably for a decade plus. And the thing is, anyone can make a pair of these sneakers for nickels and dimes outsourced somewhere in the East. But because there's a Jump Band logo on it, it means so much more, right? So knowing this, the way I build brand recognition and get customers to more so vibe with the brand is great storytelling, right? You think about Michael Jordan's story and how that attaches to the Jordan brand, right? That's all it ever is, you know. And stories on how the brand even came to be, the trials, the tribulations. Me personally, I love writing about that stuff. But the point I'm making here is, especially in the food and bev industry, where all the products, in my opinion, seem to be more backed by the same unique value propositions of sustainability, being B Corp certified, and what have you. Over the past year of learning on what works and what resonates from both sides of the coin, both consuming and creating content, I found that a well said or written story, the oldest form of communication known to mankind, does it more than anything else, right? And that's because of the emotional conviction that it brings when it comes to storytelling, right? It doesn't get more unique than your own story. Everyone is different, right? Everyone has their own little story, and that's what makes it unique. So, in the case of this particular food and bev brand, they've been in business for over a decade, so that's a USP of its own. But they were actually the first movers of the gluten-free industry, not even gluten-free bar, right? Back then, there were simply no alternatives out there. It was pretty hard to get a gluten-free uh, food to eat on its own, right? We're talking about a decade past, right? And the two founders, being diagnosed celiacs and all, had to create a brand of their own out of necessity. So you see what I mean? People love that stuff. In fact, when I shared that same story to this brand's email list, it ended up outperforming the 4th of July promotions, right? Remember, I started on June 13th. So that was really telling. And it confirmed that what I had learned from Donald Miller's Building a Story brand, great book, by the way, and other influencers that emphasize stories and personal branding is all true. Even the direct response marketers and copywriters that I've studied from use a ton of storytelling and their long form sales letters and VSLs to get you to buy their products or services, right? And especially in emails where the very nature of the platform is sensitive and personal to the subscriber. And by that, I mean, when people give you their email address, that's sensitive digital real estate, right? which is why I find that it's so important to build a connection with each and every subscriber. Like it's a one-to-one conversation, right? Just as if you were talking to a friend. That's why I'm a big advocate of, these plain text-based emails that deliver value in the storytelling context, as opposed to these, flashy marketing type emails that just more or less blend in with the others. But to me, there's nothing more emotionally compelling than a good story. Obviously, because of what I just said, in terms of storytelling being the oldest form of communication that's known that's been known to mankind, and that's how I'm able to send out campaigns frequently without annoying their customers. Okay, so once we set up the deliverability foundations and making sure we're sending out email campaigns that are one personalized and two deliver value, the next the second and third levers to pull afterwards is optimizing the sign up form and welcome flow, right? So again, once I set those foundations, we move on to the next highest levers to pull. Um, in terms of the sign up form, it's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, you want to test out a bunch of different offers, copy and design, and see which one converts the most with your audience, right? In the case of their audience, the thing that worked out for them best was a free sample. The other thing too that I like to keep on track of in terms of the copy and design is just to keep it simple and make it as easy as possible for them to sign up to the list, right? And then we let the welcome flow continue on over the course of a couple weeks. In our case, our welcome flow was about 10 emails long, where again, we look to establish our founder and brand stories, right? And then we go on to our own USP, and then we want to establish social proof. So you want to do this with the reviews that you have, and establishing that trust with your prospect. And you want to use scarcity and urgency for the expiring offer that you have. Um, you want to basically have the offer that you offered in the sign up form expire over a certain amount of period of time, right? And then what we did actually in this flow is we came back again with an offer better than the original one with bonuses, but with a tighter deadline, right? Um, and obviously, the main thing I tested for the first welcome email and in the campaigns as well was testing out different email structures. So whether that be design heavy, text heavy, image first, text first, etc. And I find that in this particular brand that the text heavy, text first, story based, storytelling emails outperform any other sort of structures, right? Um, the other thing too, in terms of getting open rates of about 50 to 60%, is making sure you're using subject lines, preview text, and even sender names that help you get there. So what I do personally is, um, obviously the majority of consumers use mobile to consume content and shop online. So what I like to do with the subject line is have the subject line be 180 characters or less, because anything more than that would crop out on mobile, right? And in terms of the subject line and preview text formula, I like to put a little bit of curiosity, a bit of a you want to hint at a benefit, and you want to be specific, right? So you want to use the preview text to either build on the subject line or even reverse it and make the preview text act as a headline, since the preview text displays more characters on mobile than the subject line. So that's a neat little trick. But from this point forward, it was all about filling in the rest of the missing pieces, right? So the abandonment flows, the VIP flows, the win back flows, the SMS flows, as well as SMS campaigns. And by the way, you want to be careful with this. You don't want to send these too often. You want to basically limit these to special holidays or events. So by optimizing the key levers, sign-up forms, welcome flows, and the rest, and the ongoing campaigns, 35 days after onboarding, this was the result, right? So by setting up the foundations and segmenting our list to engaged and unengaged subscribers, and furthermore into buyers, non-buyers, repeat buyers, VIPs, and everything in between, we were able to send out personalized campaigns up to 3 times a week without taking our deliverability or without annoying our customers. The same stuff we did to take another brand from open rates like these, so in the mid 20s, sometimes even as low as 15, which is not ideal, right? To open rates like these, right? Our highest one was, I believe, 75%. This is for another brand actually, but for this brand specifically, it was more around 50 to 60%, where we get above, on average, 10,000 subscribers to open their emails and what have you. And with this other brand too, um, especially with the plain text win back emails that we sent out originally, you want to get them to respond back to the email, right? And this other brand owner that I've worked with said, a few clients responded back to the email. They even came in and appreciated the interaction, right? Um, which was more so of the same with this particular food and bev brand. So here's the thing, right? The problem in today's landscape is that there's a relentless race against rising ad costs, fierce competition, and the fickle attention of consumers, right? You're constantly fueling a beast that's always ravenous, never satisfied. Yeah, I see so many brands neglect this part of their customer journey, right? Perhaps due to lack of time and attention put into it, or resources to fund it, or just straight up unaware of the fact that your email list has a lot more potential than you think it does. But by focusing on owning attention and attention you own already, and edutaining them on your brand, so to speak, you might just end up finding the answer that you're looking for. And the answer is mastering retention marketing channels, right? The forefront being email marketing based on these fundamentals. So again, deliverability, making sure that your Googles, Yahoos, and Outlooks of the world welcome your email into your customer's primary inbox and far away from the spam folder. Using automated flows to guide your customers along their journey from the very beginning, where we educate them and nurture them to their first purchase, all the way beyond the end, where we reward them for being loyal fans of your brand, right? Um, you want to create offers that provide value that incentivizes your customers to take action, right? Of course, there's also segments, so understanding the different groups within your audience and tailoring your approach to each one. And then for the campaigns, you want to implement thoughtfully crafted campaigns that don't just give off that sleazy, salesy vibe all the time, and actually resonate with your audience, right? And again, you want to do that with great stories. Of course, with the copy, you want to write compelling copy that engages and persuades your audience, and creating visually appealing emails that catch the eye and draw your customers in with the whole design. So, with the cost of email marketing being extremely low compared to paid ads, and the potential of it being so high, you could find the cash flow that you were looking for, right, by taking advantage of such a high ROI channel and then reinvesting it back into other parts of your customer's journey that you didn't have the cash flow for previously, from the very front with your Meta, Google, and TikTok ads, all the way to optimizing conversion rates and by fine tuning the details of your landing pages and what have you. All right, so that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.